Wait, the museum?
There's a
Have you heard
museum.
the
That's the
museum in
best.
Washington D.C. It has a really stupid name, but it's you would love it. It's really awesome. Like Nick told me about it, and I went there.
I haven't been to DC since I was like 8.
Yeah, I mean, I had never been there before this, but it's just, I mean, it's what it sounds like. It's a museum dedicated
To news.
to news, but they have an archive of historical newspapers going back hundreds of years, and it's really, really cool.
Nice.
You can just see, I mean, it's like
You can
amazing.
see how big those broadsheets were.
Yeah, and also just how much news, in some cases, how much news writing has changed, and also in some cases, how much it hasn't.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing how much these sort of traditions of reporting and news, like good reporting and good news writing, go back a long fucking way. It's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
They have space ice cream too.
I didn't eat that.
They should have.
They have space ice cream?
Well, every museum in DC has space ice cream, including the Holocaust Museum.
Do you mean
It's true.
you mean like they have like
gotta have some for the kids.
like astronaut ice cream, like freeze dried
Yeah.
ice cream, or like Dippin' Dots?
Probably both, but the astronaut ice cream is what I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Holocaust Museum. Interesting. It's weird that Washington, D.C. has a Holocaust Museum but does not have a notable Japanese internment museum. Kind of a bummer. Yeah, we have that museum about those people that we liberated.
Yeah. Whoops.
It's November 4th, 2015.
This is Idle Thumbs 235. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm James Spafford.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Nick Brecken.
Hi, Nick. Hey.
Hey, Nick. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Wait. Why do I... Oh, okay. Whatever. So, welcome to this podcast in which we discuss things.
Thanks, Jake.
I guess I'm just going to talk about Mario Maker for a second, because that's what I want to talk about for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Do it.
When Danielle and I were really obsessing over Mario Maker right before it came out, or like right in the window when it came out, the sort of biggest laments from me and Danielle, I think, were that there were no checkpoints in Mario Maker, and also that question mark blocks, like the fundamental piece of Mario is that you hit a question mark block and a mushroom comes out, but if you're big, a flower comes out. And those things were not in Mario Maker. But there's an update out today, if you're listening to this podcast on the Wednesday that it came out, a free update from Nintendo that adds those two things to the editor now. So you can put a mid checkpoint in a level, so if a player dies, they don't have to play your level over from the start. And also, if you drag a flower onto a question mark block and then drag a mushroom on top of that, they stack and work the way you'd expect. And I don't have a whole lot to say about it, other than I'm really excited because even though I've still not published a Mario Maker level, I play Mario Maker after work a lot, and they've remained frustrating forever. Actually, holy crap. I did not think that people would be able to make sort of Minecraft or LittleBigPlanet style insane, calculating weird computer things inside of Mario Maker. But someone made a map which Danielle and Patricia played through on their. They do a YouTube series called Boo Lab where they play Mario Maker stuff, and someone did manage to somehow create a checkpoint system. Man, I cannot even remember how it works. I'll just. You know how those computers that you always see in video games where you make things out of computers?
Yeah.
Yeah, they make simple, just like basically bit gates or whatever.
Right, yeah, where you're playing a level that looks like a normal LittleBigPlanet level or a normal Minecraft map, and then in the YouTube video they go, hold on, and now I'll just turn on free fly mode, and they fly up into the sky or down into the earth, and there's just like a Nazi code-breaking bunker inside with...
Right.
Someone did that in Mario Maker to somehow deduce that you had played through part of the level before, and then work through this crazy
they made a
logic system.
checkpoint system where you could like input a password, so to speak.
Yeah, and it
which
would
was
run through a little
sequence
computer.
You would learn if you got to a, if you reached a certain point of the level, and then you could go and like
it would
load.
unlock a little gate that would let you go the right way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, that was one of the cleverest things I saw people work out how to do in LittleBigPlanet 2. Right towards the end of me working there, was someone worked out that the only piece of information that you carry from level to level with you, if you like chain levels together, is your score. And using that, they managed to set up like RPGs where you could have like stats and life and things brought with you just by
they would encode things into your score.
Yeah,
Jesus,
isn't that awesome?
By having just mandatory,
because you can read the score at any point and display it, and like if they have over a certain amount, then make a thing.
So the score was like basically deterministic. Like two people who reach the same point in the level will have the same score.
If they have like
they would just award you a very specific score when you've done a thing.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's intense. Yeah, Mario Maker is not anywhere resembling that level of complexity because it has no real input-output that you can author, but you can just make physical machines that unlock things based on code input. Anyway, that code input is now irrelevant because checkpoints exist. So I'm really excited to make some levels that I don't ever publish that use those features now as well. I only said that because there are probably people who would play Mario Maker but may not have heard that news who would be very excited about it.
It's amazing how the need for something like that means that people just try and work out how to make it happen. So it's kind of sad that they even put it in. So hopefully there are more things that are missing.
Oh, there's
people striving to like build crazy machines.
I mean, it's a cool pattern. I mean, we don't know obviously whether this stuff was planned or whether Nintendo is reacting to user creations, or maybe we do know, and I just personally don't know. But it's kind of a cool cycle, right? Because once this stuff is figured out, then it's kind of just... Once it becomes something that anyone can implement, but it's just a huge pain in the ass to implement, then the sort of like cleverness part of it ends up being meaningless.
Yeah.
Because it's been solved, and it just turns into a bunch of work to do. You know, so like it's cool if that is then followed by Nintendo saying, okay, this is something that the community is using, we'll just put it in the game.
Yeah, it also just makes me happy that there's now at least one point does not define any sort of trajectory, but Nintendo putting an update out at all that is adding enhancements to the core editor of Mario Maker is really encouraging to me. It makes me hope that maybe they will update the curation elements, or maybe they will give level chaining abilities or anything like that, but it's, I don't know, it's cool.
I saw a cool sort of category of level the other day that just doesn't really exist in commercially released Mario games, or I guess Nintendo developed Mario games, which is like single screen puzzle levels. Have you guys seen these? There's I don't know if this is a sort of common phenomenon or what, but there's some creator and he or she makes levels that are exactly one screen,
or like
so
no scrolling.
Yeah, and they just you just have to sort of do things in the right sequence, or sort of figure out like how to manipulate the power switches that turn things into coins, and then get the right coins to create the architecture that's going to let you go where you need to go. It's cool. It's a cool idea. I mean, when you think of all the mechanics and player inputs that exist in Mario, there's plenty of stuff there, so you can create interesting, cool little puzzles as opposed to sort of scrolling platforming levels, and that seems like a pretty good vein of player creation.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
nice. That's all I have to say about Mario.
Fair enough.
Forever. That's our final Mario Maker segment.
Thank you,
That's
Jay.
the final word on Mario Maker.
Yeah. It's pretty good. You can make a coin puzzle.
So Anno 2205.
Yeah.
Tell me about
I'm
this
so
game.
glad that this already came out, because usually what happens with Idle Thumbs, we release on the worst possible day for a video game podcast, because releasing on Wednesday means we have to record on Tuesday, and Tuesday night is generally like midnight is generally when games come out on Steam, and so it's never possible.
So you play
for us
all
to
night,
play them.
and then
No, because by the time they come out, we've already recorded the podcast.
Yeah.
It's really shitty. And so I was totally shocked yesterday when someone replied to me via Twitter and said, "Hey, Anno 2205's out."
And then you liked that tweet.
I did. I liked it with what was then a star, and if I go back and now look at my reply, it will have been a heart.
do you feel violated?
Twitter retroactively modified my feelings towards this random guy on Twitter.
Man.
But it's okay. I mean, I think I do love him because of the news he gave me. So, what are you going to do?
You're going to play a new Anno.
Yeah, I did. Man, I really like this game so far. What do you think, Nick?
Is it called...
I beat the game, for one.
What? I can't tell if you're just...
I'm really tired, Chris. I beat the game. I just stayed up and beat the game. I
you
beat
serious?
a whole round of it. Yeah, I'm really tired.
I've never completed an Anno game before.
Yeah.
I guess this one's different though because this one only has a campaign.
Beat it. I mean,
And
whatever.
the past ones have had a sandbox mode, which is what I always.
It doesn't have sandbox mode.
Well, you can keep playing after you beat the game.
That was my heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just keep doing right. I mean, you can just
Yeah.
You guys should back up and
Yeah,
actually.
sorry. Okay. So this is the latest game in the long-running Anno series of economic strategy builder
Also
games.
known as a different name in North America for a while.
Dawn
No,
of
there was
Discovery
one
was the
single
one
entry.
off.
Yeah.
The first one was called Dawn of Discovery.
No, not the first one. Like
just
the
a middle
third one or something. Yeah.
Oh,
Just
dumb.
One of the ones was released as Dawn of Discovery in
1701.
North America. I thought it was 1404. Oh, was it 1701?
Yeah. 1404 and then 1701 was Dawn of Discovery.
Okay.
Nope, I just looked it up from the future. Dawn of Discovery was totally Anno 1404, not 1701. In your face, Nick, from the future.
But now.
Which was a great game. I mean,
Yeah.
the one that was also named Dawn of Discovery was actually the one that I probably played the most of. I played so much of that game.
Yeah, me too.
But this is a game that is published, a series that is published by Ubisoft, and I think is now developed by Blue Byte. I think it might have been inherited
Yeah.
by them from an earlier developer, but it's been in development for a long time now. And this is a series of games that we've talked about on Idle Thumbs before. We talked about the previous kind of futuristic one in the series, which was what
2070.
20? Yeah, yes, that's it.
Yep.
Anno 2070, which I wasn't as crazy about. So the core kind of concept of this game is that you're basically establishing an outpost on usually like an archipelago or a large island.
I mean, it's kind of a cross between Civilization and SimCity in a way.
Yeah.
Because you choose your starting location in the same way that you play Civ.
Yeah.
And there are some similarities to Civ in terms of like trading and et cetera, et cetera. But with SimCity, you can see that you're still building a city. You know, that's kind of, mostly what you're doing. So yeah, it's a hybrid kind of.
But this game, more than either of those games, is really, really focused on the kind of microeconomic simulation and
Supply chains.
supply chains, exactly.
Yeah.
And this one is set not only on Earth but also on the moon. It's actually set in 3 places at once, and you switch between them. It's set on Earth on an island outpost, which is pretty traditional for the series, but then also in the Arctic. So you're building in ice and snow, basically, and then also the moon.
So you run all 3 of those at the same time?
Yeah, the interesting thing about this game as compared to Dawn of Discovery, so in past Anno games, and in particularly in Dawn of Discovery, so you start out with your sort of like initial seed colony, and then at a certain point, in order to satisfy the settlers there, you have to expand and create a second colony. In Dawn of Discovery's case, it was always a Middle Eastern or like Arabia,
Right. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
would go to the south and sort of like get some dates, and then that would make them happy, and then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think it was a 2-chain system in that game. I don't know if there was a third like biome type in Dawn of Discovery. I think it
man.
was just 2.
I
I
can't
think it was
remember.
I think it was the sort of like warmer islands and then the sort of temperate islands, and then this game sort of adds the third layer, which is the moon. So like the Arctic is analogous entirely to the way that those first 2 phases work in the other games. And the moon is sort of like the third
Right.
supply chain that you
The
have
third
to manage.
phase,
Yeah.
the moon.
Which they do a really good job of introducing all those phases too. All the like graphics and just the way that they set up the campaign. Like I thought I was going to be really annoyed that there was no sandbox, but all that stuff is really good.
Yeah.
And feels
Also,
really good.
a really interesting thing they did that I like is that combat has been basically moved to sort of a mini game. It
Yeah.
no longer really interacts with your main outposts. It's a thing that
It's true.
combat missions become available, and you can sort of just jump into them and do them if you want, but you also don't have to.
I like and dislike that. Like, I like that it's not something you have to do. I dislike the fact that every 5 minutes some burly man comes up and says, "Hey, don't forget there's a mission. Come shoot some guy." Like, by the way, in the first 10 minutes of this game, which, I was like super psyched to play this game. I really just wanted to play the sandbox and just kind of build my like moon city. The first 10 minutes, they make you do a mission as part of the tutorial. and you're just like shooting like weird like future boats with a nuclear missile.
Right.
Like an actual nuclear missile is the first thing you do in this Anno.
Well, video games have a thing where you just kind of use nuclear missiles. Like, I mean, StarCraft does that too. You're just like, just queue up your nuke. Just nukes.
It's really bizarre. That whole like the combat itself is really strange. Like if you actually choose to
it's just like a goofy
bizarre.
arcade game. You just it's like Diablo. You just right click around the map attacking things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really mind. I kind of hate having to fight anything in games like this where I really just care about the builder part and the economy part.
It's just kind of an annoyance.
Yeah, it's always just a thing that you have to just kind of take care of. And it just messes up your game for a while. And then a
lot of this game is about managing your space, trying to pack in as many buildings into as little land as possible. They've tied that to a single resource type across each biome. Each biome has its own, like I think in the Arctic it's like petroleum. You only get petroleum though by either like reaching a milestone through just making your colony better, or through combat. And so like if you're stuck in a position where you just don't have enough resources to like take a tick up and like reach the next level of your whatever civilization, I forget what they call it, you're basically kind of stuck doing combat. There aren't really many other ways to get it. Like you can buy it on the like open market or whatever, but there's only so much available at any given time. It's a weird thing because I feel like that mechanic didn't exist in Dawn of Discovery, where like actual building stuff was tied to a rare resource. It's really strange. But other than that, the game's really good. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I like how different each of the sort of colonies feels in a way that is totally different. The kind of water world, global warming future where you're building on islands in the middle of the ocean, but then there's
the ice world.
Yeah. There's the Arctic, which is like, it's been preserved by this sort of like hyper conservationist group that has kept the ice caps from shrinking or whatever. I don't know. But
how does that work?
I don't know. It doesn't.
There's a whole subplot about like lunar mercenaries that have escaped to Earth and are trying to stop people from going back to the moon or something. Like that's
the first weird. That's the first battle you fight.
Yeah, right. It's like weird.
No more will us moon people suffer under the yoke of your, oppression or whatever. I don't know.
It's really strange.
That there's like moon rebel terrorists who attack you from the moon, I guess, with boats on the Earth.
It's probably how
I don't entirely know.
It's probably.
The launching of those boats was majestic as fuck, by the way. Launching them from the moon.
Yeah, hopefully they just shot the actual boats off of the moon.
Yeah, with guys in
with a nuke. They become kind of obsessed with that. Like 2070 was all about terrorism and the world ending and like specifically like terrorism, like people that believed in oil versus people that were vegans. Like that was the two races. Right?
Yeah,
it was just like
there is always
beasts.
a latent like
versus
that's
vegans.
A really common. I feel like that's a super common theme in games that are set in the future that aren't just like you're a guy running around shooting things. Like Alpha Centauri kind of had a bit of that as well in terms of the like flavor of the different corporate factions,
or like No Blood for Aliens.
It's true.
Was that Mass Effect?
That was Mass Effect. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that was Mass Effect 1.
I believe
2?
so. It's probably 1.
I can't remember.
Yeah, No Blood for Aliens, classic sign on the Citadel. But anyway, the thing I was saying about the different colony locations in Anno. What the hell is it?
2205.
2205. I always forget the years. Is that they feel totally different. Like it's a really fun part of the Arctic zone that it's because it's really cold there.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Because it's really cold there. Sort of production buildings, like industrial buildings, emit heat just because they have heavy machinery going on. And you then, and people's actual homes, sort of just the shelters that you build for people to live in, have to be within heat radius of these like industrial buildings, which is really cool because it just encourages a completely different kind of design and building. Yeah. You end up with these like clusters of like big factories surrounded by, by clusters of homes. It's just a really cool. It's a cool way for the mechanics to reflect the fiction. What
I realized after getting to the moon is that really all that stuff is just an extension of the existing mechanic that they have for the temperate and for, by extension, the earlier Anno games where everybody needs a church, and so you're going to build a church in the middle of town.
Right, you always need a marketplace.
But it's different in that it's totally different in the actual character of, like, a church is not a production building. Like in the previous Anno games, I guess it does. I guess it makes Bibles or whatever it made.
Right, but you always needed the transport. Right, the transportation, like carting.
But there's just kind of like a different character that's implied by having your residents clustered around industrial buildings than there is people clustered around like libraries and centers of learning and
it's like Alaska
and media and stuff like that.
Everybody's huddled around the northern oiled field or whatever. That's just how those towns spring up.
I guess that's true for different reasons.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also just one of the things that is really can't be overlooked with these games is that they're just really pretty.
Oh man,
they just look really nice.
The moon looks amazing.
Yeah, and the three different zones look totally different.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. There's nothing that was really analogous to sort of the grandeur of building the cathedral. Like the end, like everything in this game is upgrading. Like your space elevator, or upgrading your whatever, and it's just all kind of like, it doesn't. The sort of like craftiness of all of those like end game buildings is sort of lost. I don't know.
That's a problem I think generally with all fictional architecture and urban concepts in all video games, whether or not you're building them.
Yeah.
Like there's just nothing. I don't really think that. Like no offense to video game makers, of whom I'm one, so it's not like I'm, saying I'm any better, lazy but just lazy devs, greedy devs.
The sort of most grand and interesting buildings in human history are solving an actual need in an interesting or majestic way. Usually, even if it's just sort of, we want to be able to brag because we have a statue, but it's usually like we have an amazing library because we value knowledge, or we have a huge amphitheater, or
right, or we built a big cathedral,
or a big cathedral because of the religious and cultural center of our society. Whereas, like, to survive on this fictional alien planet, people have deduced that they need this green gem, and then they created a religion around it. So they put a huge green gem cathedral. Like, no.
Yeah.
So, maybe if someone did a near future game, they could come up with, like, things that would maybe get you to this just because you'd be like, oh, man, that's, like, a thing that I actually want, or that, like, our modern society needs this thing, and they've made a good designed version of it. Maybe they could imbue it with some of those things, but because it's like the exact flip side of the historical ones, but I think you're right that when you get into total fake zone, it gets really tough.
I just realized I haven't built the final building in the game yet, which is the corporate headquarters, which you can only build. So maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the one where you're watching little tiny, future people like build some soulless corporate garbage.
Can that
building.
Be built in any of the zones, or
just the temperate? It's so the way that the sort of end game plays out is you end up sort of
spoiler alert.
Yeah. Right about the space pirates or whatever.
Spoil.
But once you have the moon, it's just like infinite energy, and then you beat the game. It's really interesting though, because you end up your Arctic zone just kind of remains garbage, which is just kind of feeding all of this weird like industry that's going on just to get energy shot back to Earth to create a better Earth. I don't know. It's cool.
Does all that future shit get in the way of really enjoying it? Because 2070 really suffered from that, where you just didn't give a shit about any of the buildings because they were all like
I think
future.
I guess I do find it more interesting. I don't know if I can qualify precisely why. I mean, one, there's still more variety in this game because you actually are physically going to different places. The Arctic environment is just also beautiful. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, there's something that is beautiful about the sort of just pristine whiteness. And then,
it's a very space-like environment anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite. Yeah, it's like space-like in the opposite way, right? They're both sort of desolate and barren, but one of them is very dark and the other one is sort of the opposite. And like, they're both really beautiful. And I might also just, I don't know if I could defend this robustly, but I do think that this game is just more visually beautiful than 2070 was. Like, I just found that game to be less beautiful in almost all ways than the previous Anno games. Whereas this one, instead of just feeling like those games but less, it just feels like aesthetically it's just different enough in total that it now justifies its existence on a separate axis. I still would prefer their next one to, like, now that they've done 2 future ones, I would really like them to go back to just like fucking grand ass.
To go back to the past, like Anno 2007. 2007.
9. So
2007.
That's true. 2007 would be amazing if they actually.
How would that even be?
I don't know.
We've talked about Anno 2007
That's the
before.
thing. They all have to add up to 9.
Yeah, all the years are always 9.
Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've
I never
I don't think
realized
they've
that.
ever stated this like as a rule.
It always
But if
happens,
you look
though.
at every single game title, they've all added up to 9.
Have they actually run out?
No, but they've run out of ones that are in the sort of
They
European.
could do 1800.
That's true. They could do Anno 1800.
I think we've gone through some of these years before. We've talked about the glory that could be Anno
Industrial.
2007.
Yeah.
Anno 1800 would be good.
They could do Anno 9000 BC.
That would be good.
Anno
It's in the current
9000.
trend of Anno 9000.
Yeah, Anno 9000 BC would be fine.
Yeah.
They could do an incredibly current one. They could do Anno 2016 next year.
Oh, man. Anno 2016 would be crazy.
Anno 2016 could directly lead to Anno 2025, where like a shitty Elon Musk has made an island, like he bought an oil rig and made a sea land.
Well, you don't even need that because
techno-libertarian future.
Larry Ellison of Oracle bought Lanai, the Hawaiian island.
That's true.
Yeah, so
He owns 98% of that island, and the state of Hawaii owns 2%
it's the strange techno-libertarian island of Lanai that's been taken over and seceded versus like a strange permanent Burning Man settlement out in the desert that is revealed to just also be owned by Larry Ellison.
Yeah. Well, you could just jump between.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you jump between the flamethrower desert colony and the tech one, and then also
And they're connected. They're connected
God.
with a hyperloop.
with a hyperloop, and then there's just the third one is sort of a struggling south-based suburb that is not.
I know that
where
we're joking about this, but it sounds really good.
Which is where Oracle's headquarters are actually located.
But other than that, it's just blight and homeless people who get swept out from under bridges and shipped to different states.
Oh, God.
Right.
Yeah,
You shoot nukes at them.
that could be Anno. That's probably not Anno 2016, but that could be Anno 2025.
Oh man, yeah, man, they have a lot of like current era years that they could do.
Yeah.
Do it.
Now that we got that 1918 out of the way,
What?
the big. Now that we just start with a
yeah.
2, you can have so many more years
It's
in
true.
the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'd still
the
like them to go
1900s are dead to the Anno series.
God,
Yeah.
that's a bummer though, because that would be
Yeah, New York in the
that would
early
be my
20th
New York.
century.
That'd be my New York
my
Sim
God,
City.
the island of Manhattan in like
God, because this is the actual series you'd want it to
1930.
be.
And also
You
just
wouldn't
some-
actually want it to be
Like
cities.
space
You'd want it to
exploration
be
in
like-
the 60s and stuff would be...
yeah.
Anno 1800.
They just
would
call
be
it
cool.
Anno-
-2.
Anno 36 with an apostrophe.
Right. Yeah.
What just the
That's fine.
1936?
It's
Oh,
1936.
just Anno apostrophe.
Apostrophe 36.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. I thought you meant Anno like 36 AD.
No, how
Like in the
how
time-
rude would that be to call a game Anno
in the-
and then apostrophe 36? Like just
the year Jesus died or whatever.
Is there a multiplayer in this game?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there was in past games.
I don't know.
Sometimes add as expansions.
I used to play
though.
co-op on Anno.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite co-op things.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just such a really relaxed... Well, that sandbox and co-op in like Anno 1404. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Endless,
Mm-hmm.
relaxing.
Yep. Yeah, that was a great co-op experience because it's like it's one of those co-op experiences that was very lightly implemented. So it's kind of just up to you and the person you're playing with to decide what to do. Like the game doesn't really enforce a mode. You're just both there and can decide.
You
just
kind of settle
to do
into weird
stuff.
like responsibilities.
Yeah.
Like, the farming isn't going so well. Can you sort that out? Like someone's like looking after the carpet manufacturing and the trade routes.
It's weirdly kind of similar to like just kind of playing in a sandbox with a friend when you're a kid. Like in that there's no like explicit rules that are enforced by any like entity. You're just both there doing things, and you're kind of just trusting each other not to ruin it all, because you could theoretically like ruin everything in a co-op Anno game and the game wouldn't stop you. Like it's not meting out how much you can do versus the other person and equalizing it. I mean, you could just ruin everything.
That's good though. That's very similar to how co-op in Off-World Trading Company is, where it's sort of if you assuming you willingly link up in that game, you can just destroy everything. Also, I like that you used the analogy of playing in a sandbox to describe the sandbox mode.
True. I mean,
that's where it comes from.
You guys want to take a break?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick?
All right.
Okay.
Video game. Man, I forgot to tell you guys, I had to make a new Ubisoft Uplay account because I realized that my original Uplay account was hacked by some guy named Pavel. And this was apparently, I mentioned this on Twitter last night.
your Twitter.
Yeah, I mentioned this on Twitter last night, and then someone replied to me and was like, oh yeah, you first discovered that in like Idle Thumbs 131 or something. It's been that long since I installed and played a new Ubisoft game on my computer.
Absolute pointlessness of that goddamn
what was he doing
thing.
with it? And also, just what's the point of it in general? It's completely pointless. This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by MeUndies. Nick, you have a MeUndies anecdote I heard you say 10 seconds ago.
It's true. My girlfriend's brother is having a birthday, and he has 2 sisters. They asked him, what do you want for your birthday? And he said, MeUndies. And they said, no, really, what do you want for your birthday? He was like, no, they're the most comfortable underwear I've ever worn. I would like MeUndies for my birthday.
Oh,
and
man.
so they're gifting him some MeUndies for his birthday.
I hope they're using the code THUMBS.
Me too.
The reason I'm hoping that is because if they go to MeUndies.com/thumbs, they will get 20% off their first order and free shipping.
That's quite a birthday present.
I know.
Well, he'll never know.
Or a present for your day.
They'll save even more if they buy them in a pack.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's what you want to do. Also, they will guarantee that he is happy with them or his first pair is free.
Oh, that's
Although
fantastic.
he already knows he's happy with them.
That is a good deal for the gift giver if they use that promo code, because your girlfriend's brother
Dane
will think that he's getting some full price MeUndies, but what he doesn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, or they could just get him 20% more underpants.
It's true.
For the same amount of money.
That's true.
It's true.
For the larger
Clearly.
man.
He did. He demanded it.
I don't think
That's not how it works.
for the sweatier man, maybe. If you go to MeUndies.com/thumbs, you too can get 20% off your first order and free shipping.
Send some to Chris on his birthday.
I mean, that'd be great. It was already my birthday like a month ago, so that sucks now. But
In 11 months.
Stock up for Chris's birthday.
MeUndies.com/thumbs. Video game.
Boob. What? Wow.
Nick, do you remember years ago that game Sabotage about the woman spy?
Yes.
In World War II.
You run around on rooftops.
Yeah. I think that I'm thinking of the right press release, but I might not be. I just weirdly, this popped into my head. The developer of that game released a press release, I think when the game was announced, or maybe it was in an interview, I don't know. I like to think it was in a press release because it's more outrageous. And he was like, our character, you will see, unlike many female characters in video game, is not some tits monster.
Oh my God, I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this because I feel like when that happened, that were you working at Shack at the time? Or were you
I
working
think
at
so.
Canvas?
I can't even remember.
I remember some kind of a headline or something where that was just turned into a tits monster.
Tits monster. God.
Are you just Googling tits monster now?
It's probably a bad idea, but I'm putting in quotes, which I think makes it less likely that... never mind.
That was a game where you
it makes it no less likely that terrible things will result. I don't know what I'm doing.
You mean a tits monster?
Tits monster.
Yeah.
What is it?
Monster.
Sabotage? Is that the game?
Yeah.
Tits monster sabotage. That auto-completed, by the way.
All right. Well...
Yes. Okay. That's what it was. Oh man, here's the Shack News article.
Oh, good.
Sabotage renamed Velvet Assassin. Studio assures female lead not tits monster or, quote, ass monster. Anyway, we've come so far.
Yeah, no, it was...
Oh, it was an official gameplay video.
Oh, it was one of those dev journals.
Yeah.
A plan file.
John Carmack confirmed that there will be a tits and an ass monster
In the new Doom.
in a canceled id Software, like whatever.
Yeah.
Ass monster just sounds like a 90s insult. You know, the 90s always had
yeah,
insults.
It just sounds like
munch.
ass
Like
munch.
turd burger and ass munch.
Yeah.
like exactly. The 90s were full of these like
wanna
weird
eat-
sort of
you wanna
not
eat somebody's
quite
ass.
profane.
Yeah, or like the
I don't know about
the
that.
dinner scene in E.T. where the little kid screams
Oh, yeah.
penis breath at his brother.
Right, yeah,
and then the
exactly.
mom like cracks
Yeah.
up. That could have just been ass monster.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it could have also been tits monster, really.
Tits monster is so much more lascivious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all bad.
Ass has been genericized as a word.
That's true.
Anyway,
Ass has been genericized. The new ass monster.
man, that Tits monster and ass monster predates
God.
the creation of this podcast.
Yeah,
That was that era
By like
where,
6 months.
I've never
remember-
heard of it before.
I know you can go into a strip club in that game, so good job,
Yeah, classic.
dude. Good.
Classic situation.
Oh, so that's where you find the ass monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's where
Our main character is neither of those things. However, don't worry, gamers. They're in there somewhere.
Unlike our previous trite, uninspired games.
ass monster.
Ass monster and tits monster.
Our new game, we assure you, well, she is not a tits monster. That's why he said it. He had to let everyone know. Yeah.
Shedding our shitty title, our shitty old games. I know that mainly we're known for bad game names and also the games Tits Monster and Ass Monster.
Which are also bad game names.
Yeah, but accurate.
Kickstarter to launch spiritual successor to Tits Monster and Ass Monster.
No.
Dick monster.
Yeah, I guess.
I think
It's 2015. Is gaming ready for Dick Monster from the makers of Tits Monster and Ass Monster? Probably.
video games.
Have you seen that sticker about the cloud? I really
No.
like it, and I want to buy one. It's just a sad picture of a cloud, and it says, "There is no cloud. It's just someone else's computer."
That's a totally true thing about the internet that I feel like people who don't work with computers in a certain way. I mean, like almost everyone works with computers now in some form, but like if you don't have a certain understanding of how the internet works, you don't understand that the entire internet is just your computer getting information from other actual computers that are like turned on
There's just
right
another
now and have
box
hard
of
drives on
garbage
them.
that looks just like your box of garbage, but its
Yeah.
job is to send you garbage.
Right. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
People have not had to
have been
specifically log into a server and understand that.
I think
Yeah.
people have been intentionally misled by marketers to believe
for sure.
that there is something that is called the internet that is like data that is somehow like floating around somehow. No, it's all just sitting on shitty computers.
You know what would rip that? Right? Did you see the article recently where like American like the naval commander or whatever who said like, hey, we've noticed that the Russian subs are just troweling near all the like connection points for the internet cables. And they've developed a new mini sub that can just go down and cut the cables. Like that.
Hopefully with
and
like
then there was a map.
large novelty scissors.
No, that's
that pokes out
I
of the-
cannot get the image out of my mind of the giant scissors. And like I really can't. And like I'm just and then seeing, people like reading the New York Times and having to look at the map that just show like actual tubes going to America from around the world, and there aren't that many of them. Like I think that melts people's minds. I think that if that became a
Internet
thing
is
where
a
just
series
a
of
cable
tubes.
was just cut and then suddenly
computers
like,
connected by tubes.
yeah, you're just done. There's nothing you can do. Anyway, that's Anno 2205's DLC is the internet, and then you can
scissor submarines.
You string
Yeah.
internet trade
Man,
routes.
is that a thing that's ever been... I don't know how you would represent it in a game, but like, has any strategy or war game ever tried to model like cyber warfare?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably
it's so
not.
Stupid sounding.
Probably
of course
not.
No one would. But it's like, you know, if some world power were to like actually destroy a country's
no one models
internet
that, even though it's really
capability-
like you at this point there would be like in old SimCity games where you switch to the water view or whatever, just like other utilities, being able to have your global map and then go boop and just see here's data hubs, here's actual like major pipelines of the internet, and these like
it'd be so easy to map to existing like war game concepts too, because you would just use the like fog of war. You would just cut off communication with half of your units on the other side of the map when your satellite gets exploded by an anti-satellite missile.
But the thing about that is satellites do some of that stuff, but a ton of it is terrestrial data.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it works the same way as the transatlantic cable or something. Like it's just like when that happens, when like a server that Verizon owns or some huge backbone provider melts down, and just like that happened this year. There was some huge server that went down for like a day.
Yeah.
Huge sites were just gone, and you could do trace routes to other servers, and it would take a huge amount of time because the data would physically have to reroute around continents because such major data lines went down. It's so strange to think about because it never happens.
Yeah.
Why isn't that in a video game? Anno 2025, my friend.
I'd like to see it in a Crusader Kings style game.
Well,
where you have,
I mean, I'm thinking about
Cyberwarfare to really fuck with other governments.
That's
and
why I'm
stuff.
bummed that the Hearts of Iron spin-off didn't go, because that's like if they had done like increasingly modern versions of that game, it would have just been a modern Crusader Kings after a while.
Yeah. No more kings.
Yeah, Crusader Kings.
except instead of dynasty lineages, you would just behave with corporations.
Yeah, pretty much.
That just also persist for many
It
generations.
seems like something that could map to
or dictators. Yeah.
And you're just trying to put kiddie porn in their email account so that they get fired.
That's what you when you hire someone to do a plot.
What was that?
It's the Total War Ninja.
What was the military industrial board game that we played?
Imperial 2030.
Imperial 2030. Like some of the sort of military industrial modeling of that game plus that tech stuff would actually be a decent fit. I think
that would be cool. Yeah,
in a video game,
buying and selling influence in nations.
Right. Then also being able to have light control of the military, but also having some sort of espionage element on top of that. Yeah. Now what gold do we have to discuss?
Are we back?
Sure.
Are we?
We're back. You had a secret game, Chris.
Okay.
A secret game.
A game that I kept around that I did not delete, even though it's been non-functional for me for over a month, is Fallout Shelter. I'm still playing Fallout Shelter. This game, they fixed whatever had been causing it to crash after 10 seconds upon loading it on my iPhone, and now I can play it indefinitely, which is terrible for me. It's weird going back to Fallout Shelter, which is, a game that I talked about for several weeks running on this podcast. I don't know, 2 months ago maybe, and maybe more than that at this point. It might have been more than a month since I've actually last played it. It might have been 2 or 3 months. I can't recall. But in any case, this is a kind of obviously Fallout spin-off from Bethesda that has you manage a Fallout shelter and drag little people around and assign them jobs and train them up and send them out into the wasteland to collect stuff. So anyway, it was really weird. I expected to load it up and have it be just a disaster, because every previous time I've gone a while without playing Fallout Shelter and opened it back up again, my base is always just a complete nightmare zone that's been infested and everyone's dead or dying, and like just it's always been a catastrophe. This time I opened it up, everyone was like great. They were super happy. I had 999,999 bottle caps, which is the currency, which is the max that the number will count up to. Everything was just like fucking hunky dory.
But then you started to explode, and a guy wearing a Joker mask appeared.
What?
I was referencing Nick's experience in Grand Theft Auto 5 when he suddenly was given all of the money and all of the guns.
Yeah, no, I wish. My base is great, and everything about it's great. Nick Brecken is now all stats maxed. Every single stat maxed.
Max Brecken.
Yeah, only level 3 out of 50. carries a Tommy gun and wears a formal suit.
Nice.
And now works in a hospital. So that's a thing that's happening. The weirdest part is
Congrats, Nick.
Yeah, thanks.
The weirdest thing is that all of the people who I had sent out into the wasteland were still out in the wasteland, and so now I've recalled them all and they're coming back. But they've been out there so long that the amount of time it takes someone to come back from the wasteland is directly proportionate to the amount of time they've already spent out there. So I have like 4 different people coming back to the wasteland who will now take like a full month of real world time before they get back to my base. Like they're just out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really weird. So like,
imagine what they're going to find.
Well, they've all found amazing shit. Like you can see what they've found as they find it. And so they've all found like just dozens and dozens of blue items, which are the rare
They find so much
items.
stuff after a while.
Yeah.
It's
insane. It's so strange. I don't know if I've ever had an experience with a game before, and this presumably wasn't intentional on the part of the game designers because I don't think they intended for people to not play the game for several months and then come back to it. But I don't know if I've ever played a game that actually just demanded and has no way to circumvent this system whereby there are characters who are just doing something for a full month of real world time, and I can't like speed it up or do anything about it or like use them for anything in the meantime.
Maybe not pay any space bucks.
No, I mean they're just walking back, and it's going to take them that long. It's weird. It's really interesting.
You know where they went to? Boston, and you can see them if you buy Fallout 4 for $59.95.
Yeah, they've been uploaded to the cloud.
Yeah.
Have they announced any connection between the
two games? The UI, I did notice that in one of the recent videos, which I actually think was like a leak for Fallout 4, the UI is actually very similar in terms of graphics. It's kind of interesting, like all the perks and everything. It's all the little Vault Boys kind of doing similar animations and running around and stuff.
That's fine. I like the UI in that game.
Yeah, it's cool.
Fallout Shelter, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think you'll be able to explore your Fallout Shelter in 3D?
That seems like they should have that, but I don't think they've announced it.
Man, that would be weird. That would be crazy if you could find
your vault.
Yeah. I guess there would have to be a default one if you don't have that linked. But if you do, you can just go into. It would be weird because it would be totally unlike how vaults are represented in Fallout 3, which are like basically one story. They're basically one story deep, right? They're not
right.
Whereas this is just like this weird, thin, like 20-story deep ant farm, essentially.
They wouldn't let you into yours, Chris. You'd have to get in line.
Line up with if I were playing a woman character, I could get in.
Oh yeah,
according to my base. Well, I mean, I've been slowly killing all the men in my base. I mean, I picked that right up when I got back into the game. I'm down to probably like 5 to 10% men in my base.
I missed this update of why you were killing all the men.
Oh, I just thought it would be interesting to make a base that was women only. I just started killing the guys.
How did you start killing them?
I was originally killing them by.
This sounds like a Charlie Rose interview with Chris, like 10 years after the fact. Like, why did you make this decision? I just thought it'd be interesting, Charlie. I don't know. I really don't know what to tell you. It's just Google.
I started by putting them in rooms and then forcing them to rush production on those rooms until they caught on fire, and then letting them burn to death, and then bringing in other people to put the fire out, and then disposing of their corpses. But eventually I moved on to my current method of sending them out into the wasteland without any weapons or armor, because it requires less upkeep.
And you don't have to look at them.
Right. I just send them off and they're just gone. And then when they die, you can just sort of say, forget them, and then they're just gone. So that's what I do now.
Do they ever come back with cool stuff?
No, because I don't ever bring them back. They die out there.
They always die.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's an update on that. I don't know how much sort of substance there is remaining at this point, now that I seem to have maxed out many of the things that can be maxed out in Fallout Shelter. But I was surprised and pleased to find out that it worked again.
That's good. I love your Fallout Shelter updates.
Yeah. Oh, man. Another update to something we talked about last week, Nick. We talked about, Rebel Galaxy? And you said it was by Erich Schaefer and...
am I wrong?
No. I'm just confirming,
okay. Yes.
right? And Travis Baldry. Do you know
what I say on this podcast?
the reason I'm asking, do you know if Max Shaefer also worked on it?
No, I think he's still at Runic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I got my haircut yesterday, as
Max
people in this
Shaefer.
room can tell. And the barber asked, what do you do?
Max Shaefer?
So that again. The barber's like, what do you do? And I said, I work for a video game developer. He said, oh, video games. Like, ever play Diablo? And I'm like, yeah, Diablo. And he's like, I cut the guy's hair who made that game. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, one of the brothers. And I was like, Max and Erich Schaefer? Which one? And he's like, I'm not sure. But he lives right around here. And it was crazy. It
is crazy.
I didn't realize that one or both of them were back in the Bay Area now.
Yeah. Max is still at Runic. Although it says he's San Francisco Bay Area, so maybe.
Oh.
I feel like maybe he did a commute thing or something,
Yeah.
or I don't know. Yeah.
Huh. So anyway,
Anyway, you share a barber.
yeah.
Did he say, I want my hair like him?
Whatever you do for that, whatever you do.
And that's how you got the haircut
One of them,
you
I
have
think,
today.
is basically bald,
Yeah.
as I recall.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah. And the other keeps his hair shorter than I do, I believe. So I don't know.
I'm glad that you know the hairstyles of the Shaefer brothers.
Well, I mean, we just met them one time, and that's by recollection. But who knows? But they were on that podcast. They were on our podcast that once. So there's an update. Just giving you guys the barber Shaefer Brothers update, as demanded every week by our listeners.
What haircuts do the creators of Diablo have now? Relatively
Haircut of the
unchanged.
wolf.
Yeah.
Of the whale or something. I don't know. They
Oh,
did
right.
have haircuts of whatever.
Plated haircut of the whale.
Yeah. Plated side parting of the whale.
Man, of the whale. I forgot about that.
I know.
Is that still is that in Diablo 3?
It was Diablo
of
1.
the whale?
Oh,
I know
you
it was
guys
just
mean if it was in
Diablo. I
3?
know,
I
but
don't think so. No.
yeah. What did of the whale do? Do you remember?
I mean, it was just the best.
I can't remember. I think, yeah.
It was just-
It was just
good.
the, it was just the best
Yeah.
the item type.
Yeah,
It was just
life
the best
regen
of
and God knows.
Well, anyway, you guys want to do some reader mail?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here is an update to something Jake mentioned.
Oh, what
in-
I mentioned was this is reader mail. If you have a question for us, you should write us at questions@idlethumbs.net, and we might read it on the podcast, or we might read it ourselves.
True. Yeah, sometimes I've mentioned this before, but sometimes I just reply directly to emails that I think we probably won't get around to reading for just whatever reason. I was doing some of that today. So I do tend to read pretty much all the email we get. I'm sure there are some emails that fall through the cracks, but in general, I read pretty much everything. So, I apologize if yours doesn't make it on the air. Christopher Eli writes, Hey Thumbs, in episode 233, Jake asked if anyone had access to a Sony 4 or 8K cinema projector upon which you could play Downwell. Well, there's no such thing as a Sony 8K cinema projector, and I can neither flip it sideways nor play it on a silo as requested, but I think I can get pretty close. I listen to the cast each week at work sitting next to a Sony Digital Cinema 4K projector, and that projector has an HDMI in port, if you catch my drift. I'm a projectionist at a movie theater, and when the day is over or if no one buys tickets for the showing of a movie, I'll go on break, commandeer the theater, and watch Netflix or play games in the slot of the canceled screening. It's a good gig. A couple days ago, I tried Downwell out on the big screen. Though it's only about 20 feet tall, definitely not grain silo sized, it's good enough for me. I'd love to have you guys over to the theater to play some Downwell. Unfortunately, I'm on the other side of the country in Yonkers, New York. That's where I lived when I was a little kid. So that might be difficult. But hey, if New New Yorker Danielle wants to come and give it a try, she's welcome to. I enclosed a video/photo of Downwell in the theater. Thanks for all the casted pods. Listening to the new Idle Thumbs is one of my favorite things to look forward to every week. Chris.
That guy is my hero.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's really good. I am glad that is a job that it is possible to have.
Yeah, it's weird to think about the fact that movie theaters just have an HDMI in on them now.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When he said that, I for some reason I had this moment of dissonance in my brain, and I was like, "Is that some kind of weird hack?" No, I guess just why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's just a projector.
Yeah. Just doesn't seem
It's
like
so you can
movie
run to the
theaters-
theater and do your PowerPoint.
Here's a here's a photo of I'm showing to you guys of Downwell being projected onto a theater screen.
It looks large.
It is. Wow. Yeah, it does look extremely large. It's pretty good.
It's too bad you can't force it into vertical mode. I mean, I guess you could if you're just
Where would
plugging
it project onto? It would still only be as tall as...
Yeah, just make it terrible. Run it vertically across the movie theater screen.
Oh my god. Can you imagine going to an IMAX theater upon which was projected vertical downwell?
Just sideways downwell?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gross. Anyway. Thanks, Chris. That is a good email. I approve of it. Oh, this is really cool. So Spencer Winson writes, Hi, Thumbs. I'd like to borrow some of your time to mention that the community is again running a game jam. The Winter Wizard Jam will take place from Saturday, November 28th to Sunday, December 13th. The game will have a general theme of winter and winter holidays, while also incorporating a list of special, quote, diversifier rules revealed the day the jam starts. As with the first Wizard Jam, the theme is optional. More importantly, we want to encourage the community to get as involved as possible and hopefully convince people to try their hand at making a game. There are resources and additional details available in the Wizard Jam subforum, as well as a thread of people looking to form a team for the jam. Now is a great time for readers to sign up for the forums and get involved with the community. We have a huge number of game-making experts and enthusiasts eager to help. As a final note, Wizard Jam Prime, with its episode title theme, will return in the new year. I'm very confident that the diversifiers we're cooking up will encourage creativity very similar to what we've seen in the first Wizard Jam. Thanks for taking the time to read this announcement. Cheers, Spencer Winson, Spenny on the forums.
That is exciting as hell. The first Wizard Jam had great games, and a holiday-themed Wizard Jam is really good. I really hope that they allow Dishonored holidays in that must have been already discussed.
Maybe that's one of the diversifiers. Yeah. Dishonored holiday.
What does that even mean? That just means make it whatever.
I don't know what it means. I'm sure some readers who are more clever than we are will think
Dishonored
of a thing
Winter
that
Solstice.
Yeah. I don't know. You could come up with a game where you know the goal is to dishonor holidays in hilarious ways through some kind of weird like subversion or combination of traditions.
It's sort of like a dimension hopping game where you're playing the game on Christmas, but then suddenly it just goes and glitches out and you're in Dishonored Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well, no, but someone could figure it out. Yeah. So the
I guess that's technically a time travel game because it would just be 2 weeks.
You would just go to 2 weeks in the past. Yeah. So the Idle forums are really great in general, and they also have a cool game development subforum that has all kinds of discussion and tips about making games. And if you go to idlethumbs.net and then hit the forum link at the top of the page, you can sign up for that forum, and it's just a really great community. And this is, like the email described, this is a good time to sign up if you're interested in participating in the jam or just hanging out and watching people make games in the jam. It was really fun during the first Wizard Jam to just hang out in those threads and watch people post just screenshots of their games as they came together. It was really inspiring.
There is a Wizard Jam subforum that has all of the old dev threads too, so if you want to check out the previous Wizard Jam to get a taste, it's all there.
Yeah.
Wizard Jam.
Yep. That is cool. Duke BG writes, Hey Thumbs, why did you stop recommending games on your creation list in Steam?
Because we were bad people.
Yeah, we forgot about it. That's the answer.
Simple.
Maybe we'll go back and refresh that. Aaron Flint writes, regarding the influences that are visible in Rebel Galaxy, consider the following.
Consider this.
Consider this dismaying observation. It's now the only thing I can think of when I read a sentence like that, which is from the fucking Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland, where Jake and I were this weekend. Anyway.
No windows and no doors.
It's true. That is what it has. Aaron Flint continues, the old Escape Velocity games for Mac were top-down space mission trading, ship upgrading RPG-style indie productions. Likewise, the DOS game Solar Winds. These were presented in a top-down perspective, so maneuvering and indeed the universe only existed in a 2D plane.
Yep.
Combat in these was handled in the traditional action arcade Asteroids Sinistar style. The commodity trading, missions, and plot structure greatly resemble Wing Commander Privateer. In that game, each station with a mission computer presents a small selection of missions, with extra, more specialized missions available from the Merchants and Mercenaries Guild offices, which are represented as distinct space stations in Rebel Galaxy. Trading in Privateer was pretty primitive and barely dynamic, but different locations consumed and demanded different categories of items, which at least provided a basic outline for non-combat profit. Combat in Rebel Galaxy is, to me, a pretty close clone of the naval combat in Assassin's Creed 4. Broadsides map directly, turret control is somewhat similar to the chase guns on the Jackdaw, and the secondary weapons resemble the swivel guns in Assassin's Creed 4. Freelancer, and to a lesser extent Darkstar 1, is probably the most recent game in this kind of action mercenary space adventure trade mogul mashup genre, with voice-acted NPCs and a grandiose plot. That game also featured a dynamic economy and hireable wingmen to fight alongside the player. With all of these important influential games in the background, the thing that really stands out in Rebel Galaxy's overall structure are its accessibility and pace. It demands very little of the player to get started. Combat is started or avoided basically at the player's whim, and tasks that can be annoyingly complex in other games are made simple and easy, like mining or managing subordinate fighters. As an aside, I never knew I was so well-versed in space games until I sat down to write this email. Thanks for all your hard work, Aaron. Good pulls.
Yeah.
From Aaron there.
Yeah, escape velocity.
Yeah.
Good. I was really bad at those games.
Man, just to keep this going, actually, David Ma writes, Hi, Thumbs. I wanted to drop a quick note because I felt like I was living in an alternate reality when Chris was talking about how strange and different Rebel Galaxy's 2D presentation of space was, because to me it seemed entirely normal. I think it has to do with what games you've played in the past. Games like Nexus: The Jupiter Incident, Star Trek Starfleet Command 1, 2, and 3, Star Trek Online, and Star Spectre all represent space as a plane where inexplicably only shuttles and fighters can enter the third dimension, while the player and the rest of the reality is doomed to jostle and collide on the same thin slice of space. Bilinear space has also seen a recent resurgence in the tabletop world with games like Star Wars X-Wing Miniatures and Star Wars Armada.
Oh, man.
Not to be confused with the video game Star Trek Armada, which also shares a love of Flatlandian geometry.
Not to be confused with the other game with the same name that has the same thing that I
Anyway, I love the show. Nick should be the next to go east, Dave.
Whoa! You've been voted off.
I know. Well, anyway.
I don't know what that means.
Didn't we talk about...
It means fuck Nick.
It's like
That's what that means.
I thought we made a reference at some point to sending people over there to be on the... No?
I think so, yeah.
Don't make it any better.
Get out,
It's
Nick.
fine.
Get out.
I'm leaving. I'm already leaving.
Go east.
I'm gonna go play some...
Go east, young man.
Yeah.
Go east. Like in Diablo 2. Is that person always going to the east? I remember something about the east.
Yeah,
oh man, in Diablo 2,
kinda
that's
go
true.
east.
Always east, east, always
Traveler
east.
or something.
Yeah. Man, I love those cutscenes.
Yep.
Anyway, Adam Hollister writes, Hi, Thumbs. I was listening to episode 230 tonight, and Jake's supposed inability to fully finish a Mario Maker level reminded me of something I've been thinking about recently. I'm a web developer by trade, and often come across a problem with motivating myself to finish any personal projects. I seem to go full speed until I hit the point when I realize I could finish within a week or so. At that point, I lose a ton of motivation, to the point where that last week might end up being more than 2 or 3 months, during which I'll likely start another project and leave the original one behind. I'm starting to get the feeling that I don't really care about creating a finished product as much as I care about proving to myself that I can, so as soon as I realize I'm capable of finishing, I don't feel the need to. I'd be fascinated to hear if any of you guys have the same issue, and if so, what kind of unfinished projects do you have in your past that have suffered due to this affliction, apart from the obvious cache of unfinished Mario Maker levels gathering dust in Jake's Wii. Keep up the great work, guys. Adam Hollister. Sadly, in the case of both me and Jake, Idle Thumbs and all things related to Idle Thumbs are like the prime offenders in that category, which is the worst, because we're terrible.
And Spaff, if you go back far enough into
That's
Idle
true.
Thumbs' history.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember a new front page of that.
Oh, there was
never
a
existed.
really good full redo of Idle Thumbs, the news site, circa 2007 or 8, that was going to blow people's minds.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. That's for total free time projects that are actually just for fun. That is often my MO completely. Is just oh, here's an interesting idea. Oh yeah, I proved that out enough that I could see it happen. Why bother finishing it? You know, like Mario Maker for me is definitely that of just I want to do this my version of this thing that I've seen in a Mario game or this idea that I've had, and then I play it a couple times and it works, and then I go, oh cool, when I finish that it'll be really cool for someone else to play. Save, file, quit.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's a not uncommon thing with people who just make things for themselves, because if you're truly making something for yourself, it doesn't really matter if you agree with me.
I think you're basically right, except that you could make the argument that even if you're making something solely for yourself, you don't actually know if you've achieved it. It's hard to honestly appraise whether you've done the thing you set out to do if the completed version still only lives in your brain, and if it's never survived first contact with reality or another person. Like you can tell yourself like, oh, I totally proved this out, but like you don't actually really know if you did until.
That's entirely true. And I think that just comes down to whether or not you're admitting to yourself that you're actually just playing around, or you're making something or solving a problem or trying to prove something to yourself.
Yeah. If your goal is simply to enjoy yourself by like fiddling around with something until you reach some like arbitrary kind of just.
It's like noodling around on a guitar versus writing and performing a song versus recording a song or whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's all spectrum for sure. Yes, indeed. All right. So let's see.
One thing about that in relation to websites in particular that I kind of miss now that people don't tend to have static web servers that they host all of their own stuff on anymore is I used to have on whatever my website was, like whatever my sort of personal homepage in just on an HTTP server, just these amazing cataloged archives of years of sort of started projects or sort of scratch. And I only have the last one left, but like I had one in high school and college. Then I had for a while, I had a subdomain on the Idle Thumbs website that I would just dump anything up that I wanted to show to someone else. And then now I have one like on Melt Wizard, my unused website. But being able to just have that crazy archive I'm sure that exists, like maybe on Dropbox or something, but people tend to clear the Dropbox off because it's on your hard drive. It's like
my version of all of this.
I don't clear my Dropbox off, but it's a repository for so much different stuff that it's not useful in the way you're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Nick.
No, my version of this is just Google Docs. I have Google Docs going back to like 2006 that are just hundreds of Google Docs, and if I have an idea, I'll just make a new Google Doc. So it's just it's basically. Functionally useless, the front page now. But just there are finished works, there are half finished works, there's like just notes. It's just a mess.
Yeah. Like reading through the notes on your iPhone that go back forever. And they're just all bullshit. Yeah. Like every single note you've ever taken is just like lists of movies you've seen and stupid things you need
mine
to
are mainly
Google.
just observations about Twin Peaks episodes for the Twin Peaks podcast Jake and I did.
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah, it's crazy to look through like decade plus old stuff that you started and never finished. It's a weird experience.
Yeah, I have a USB stick that has like actual materials on it that I've just carried through the years.
Yeah,
actual materials.
Yeah, well, not just like docs, but just like
DNA.
Stuff. Yeah,
genomes,
silk.
So Jenna Hull writes, "Hey Thumbs." What?
Oh, I'm talking about actual materials.
Oh,
paper and glass.
Jenna Hull writes, "Hey Thumbs, I have a running theory that the true demographics for both the Minions movie as well as World of Tanks and the other strategy war games of that kind is dads. I came home to Illinois this week to visit my middle-aged father and the rest of my family, and while at home, he played a lot of World of Tanks. During this time, it appears he was able to add some sort of Minions sound pack to the game, and successfully landing a hit on an enemy tank results in a minion laughing. I have attached a screenshot of the hours played listed on my dad's Steam account as of October 22nd. He has played over 1,100 hours of War Thunder. My dad has been playing video games since before I was born, being very into the Fallout and Jagged Alliance games when I was younger, as well as any number of sports games. He got very into flight sims when I was in high school, the mid-2000s, and since then has been into Skyrim. I also found a stack of games while home, including Crysis 2. So, Nick, when you're hanging out playing World of Tanks or Warships or Warplanes, that person who just killed you may be a middle-aged man from Illinois who also has a second Facebook account so that he can gift himself extra Candy Crush lives. Jenna Genegatron from the forums."
Oh, yeah. That's totally the
with
case.
Minion sound pack. Also, I don't think that we can laugh too hard at the Minion sound pack as people who will all probably universally who all probably universally have at least a double-digit hours of Worms Armageddon or a game like that under their belts, which basically just comes with a fucking Minion sound pack in like three different offensive accents. Yeah. And also, someone's probably made a Minion sound pack that you can sideload into that old late 90s Worms Armageddon. Yeah. Because I definitely played with a Psychonauts and Sam and Max sound pack when I played.
I recall a Monty Python one.
I never did that.
I recall a Monty Python sound pack for one.
Of course you recall that.
British person.
Fine. Mighty fine.
Yep.
Nathaniel Burdick writes, "Hey Thumbs, I was playing Downwell on iPhone and I felt the controls were becoming less responsive. Naturally, I blamed the hardware rather than myself and decided to see if the screen would invert if I flipped the phone over, giving me a new bit of screen for the controls." That's really good. The game didn't flip, but I decided to try a run upside down. I was surprised by how easily I adjusted to the new perspective. In fact, the game immediately felt less frantic because I was no longer falling, but instead flying upward of my own volition. Also, I found I preferred the directional controls under my right hand despite years of conditioning otherwise. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts if you give it a try. And do you have similar examples of playing games differently than the developer intended? Thanks, Nate.
Man, he
Burdick.
just basically turned it into a classic vertical shooting.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That is a way more classic
Weird.
perspective.
Ruined.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because you're shooting up to the top of the screen.
Yeah,
Just shooting upwards and going forwards. Like all
I hope that
games
this
like
mode
that.
becomes popular, and I also hope that it is called Upside Downwell.
Me too
You
now.
son of a bitch.
That makes itself. That names itself.
I know. You observed it correctly.
Playing games differently. We had a long time ago, I ran a thing called a Game-a-thon in my house for 3 days where people came over.
Like a LAN party?
Yeah, but there was no LAN. Well, there was a LAN, but that was only a piece of it.
Oh, so it was a party?
It was like console games everywhere. And then I bought a bunch of Atari joysticks and sprayed them gold to make gold joystick awards. And then we basically had tournaments of everything. But a bunch of those games we found fun ways to play, like Sonic the Hedgehog Upside Down, and or like trying to get the fastest time but have the fewest rings whilst playing Upside Down and that kind of stuff. That was good.
Nice.
Good fun times when you can do that when you're 23 or whatever. Fill your house with idiots for a week.
That's cool. I can't remember if I've done weird.
I know, I've got nothing.
Well, Spaff had the best answer that we're going to come up with. So. Playing Sonic the Hedgehog Upside Down point trial, no rings.
Yeah. I remember when I was testing, I was a tester back in the day, and we were testing some kind of Formula One game for months on end, and we started trying to play like the other person's screen. So like swapping controllers and then starting at the same time and then trying to get as far as you can on the other person's screen, which doesn't last very long and is terrible. But when you're a tester, as many people listening to this may know, you have to come up with lots of interesting things to keep your mind from breaking and falling asleep.
I remember when the Guitar Hero and Rock Band games were out, I would just connect the guitar and try and play all games with it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
most of them
that's
were basically
the best.
impossible. Yeah, but it was really fun. Racing games were pretty doable, especially when they mapped to the like using the like strum bar as left and right. I can't remember like which platforms ended up having those work for what, but
we played a bunch of games using dance mats that weren't supposed to have it. Like we played Burnout with dance mats, which was a really weird choice, but it's good. And we played Track and Field with a dance mat, so that you actually had to run on the spot and then like jump onto a button to like launch yourself over a pit or something.
Yeah, I remember doing that too.
That's good. But yeah, dance mats to play other weird games is the best.
I'm playing Downwell Upside Down right now, and it's
Upside Downwell.
Fucking weird. Like the shooting part makes sense, but like the jumping, you're basically just applying brakes, I guess. It's weird, like it's odd. There's no like consistent metaphor I can think of to describe why your guy sort of just leaps backwards. It's hard. I don't think I would be good at this. Although, I guess I can see it.
Classic
60 hours later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how you could get used to this, but I'm not going to. Anyway,
and that's that.
That is that. Thank you for listening to Idle Thumbs. If you would like to send us mail, as Jake suggested earlier, you can send it to questions@idlethumbs.net. We have a number of other shows available at idlethumbs.net, including Esports Today with Rob Zachney and Andrew Gruen, and Designer Notes with Soren Johnson and frequently Adam Saltzman interviewing other video game developers. Terminal 7, if you like Netrunner. It's a good bunch of shows. You can find them all there. We are soon, hopefully soon. I know we missed our kind of October hope, but we are in fact hoping to soon launch Idle Weekend with Rob Zachney and Danielle Riendo, formerly of this podcast. So keep an eye out for that. And if you like this or any of our other shows, please tell a friend. Consider leaving us a rating on iTunes. We love it a lot when you do that. It is exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to me.
It is.
We're all excited, Chris. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, this was gaming's awkward teen years.
Yeah.
They're still in those years.
They're still.
Well, this was sort of like
Benjamin Buttoning back into
young teen years was 2008, and now it's like angry teen years.
That's
is where
true.
we
Yeah,
are now.
that's true. Now it's angsty teen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the era.
Now
of
everyone
angst
hates their
teen.
mom and dad a lot,
And women.
and women. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. They'll grow out of it into an aloof, shitty college student,
Yep.
and then they'll be unemployed.
Then they'll start posting on MRA forums.
Shit.